Will you all please join me in Gassho and repeat and recite the Nembutsu with me. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandats, namandats, namandats. Good morning, everyone. And welcome to our final Sunday service for the month of April. I don't know if it's me getting older, but these years seem to be really moving by quickly. I would like to welcome you all today. This is for those of you who are newcomers, this first half of the service is dedicated or usually spent to dedicate to our Dharma School students. But I would also like to thank everyone for all of your hard work and efforts last weekend in hosting the Sukiyaki event. This was my first Sukiyaki event as the resident minister for Dine-In, when we actually invite people in and they sit down at the table and they eat the Sukiyaki here at the temple. It was a wonderful experience for me. I would particularly like to thank our fearless leaders who helped organize this whole event, Lynn Tonino, Tracy Ling, Crystal Inge, Kyla Yoshitomi, and everyone else who had a hand in promoting the event, organizing it, and organizing all of the finances. And this actual acknowledgement has to also links within my Dharma talk for today. So for Dharma School students, if there's two terms, or if there's two phrases that I want you to remember from today's Dharma talk, it's these two. So pay attention. The first one is causes and conditions, okay? Causes and conditions. It's a very Buddhist term. It's a very Buddhist phrase. The second one is itadakimasu. Do you all remember that term, itadakimasu? When do we say itadakimasu? Any Dharma School students? When do we say itadakimasu? So first, let's talk about causes and conditions, the Buddhist term of causes and conditions. This idea comes from the teaching that nothing, that what we receive or the things that are created come from multitudes of causes and conditions. And I can't help but to think back to our Sukiyaki event. When you look at sukiyaki, right, the dish itself, what's in the dish? My favorite, of course, are the konya. I mean, I like the beef, of course. Everyone loves the beef, but the beef is in the dish. My favorite is the konyaku noodles. And we have, let's see, green onions. We have regular onions. And this was actually something that Tacoma Buddhist Temple did that I usually don't have in the sukiyaki that I was brought up with, but celery. There is celery in Tacoma Buddhist Temple sukiyaki. And then, of course, there's tofu, and then you have the dashi. That's, what, 7 ingredients that I've labeled so far? And when you put all of it, and then when you put all of it in the dish, right, it becomes sukiyaki. So for the average for a customer who comes into the restaurant, right, you sit down and you order your food. And the food is brought to you, and it's usually decorated in a very beautiful way. And it looks very tasty, and you eat it, and you enjoy it. But one of the things that rarely crosses our mind, and it's probably because we're so hungry and we want to eat, is the source of where all of this food comes from. So someone had to make the tofu, someone had to make the noodles, someone had to make the beef, someone had to grow and cut the celery, someone had to grow and cut the onions. All of these ingredients get put into this pot that we consume, right? And when you think about it, the time that it takes to create all of the ingredients and put it together is multitudes of time. So causes and conditions, this is an important thing to remember. What were the causes and conditions that brought this dish to your plate? And this, of course, isn't even mentioning the huge amounts of help in the cooks who created the dish and the people delivering the dish to your table. And of course, all the people behind the scenes, making sure that the rice was getting cooked, the soup was getting made, and of course, we can't forget the very famous chicken teriyaki that was being cooked as well. All of these things come from causes and conditions. And it's important that we as people who consume these things remember that. For the Japanese language, there is a very simple yet deep way of doing this. And that is when we say, itadakimasu, right? When we have temple events here at the, when we have temple events here in the social hall, like community potlucks and things like that, I'm usually asked to lead the words of words before we eat the meal, right? And then we put our hands together, we say the nembutsu, and then we say, itadakimasu. I've seen this word translated, or this phrase translated, many different ways, like in Japanese movies and in anime, and often it's translated incorrectly. Usually it's translated as, thank you for the meal I'm about to receive. And the sentiment is not incorrect. But if we want to look at a literal translation of the word itadakimasu, it means to receive, or itadaku is to receive. And mas is like, like the act of receiving, okay? It literally means I'm receiving. But the deeper meaning behind itadakimasu is I am gratefully receiving. I am receiving with the acknowledgement of all the life that was given to bring this meal to me, especially if we're eating animal products, right? I am acknowledging all of the hard work that it took to make this meal. So I'm acknowledging all of the behind the scenes that happened of bringing this meal to me. And I'm not saying that the average person who says this always thinks this, but when we look at the meaning and we look at the translation of the word, it really strikes a deep chord within ourselves. I sincerely hope that when our members ate the sukiyaki, they placed their hands together before and said, itadakimasu. This means that there is an acknowledgement of all the hard work that went into making this meal before you. And it really warms my heart to know just how much hard work that all members of the temple here contributed to making this sukiyaki fundraiser the success that it was. There is so many people working to bring this meal to us today. And it really does, when we think about it, take teamwork in order to make an event a successful one. I, as a person, love to host parties. I love to cook. I love to greet guests at the house. And afterwards, I remember feeling exhausted. I mean, it's a good exhausted. It feels good. But it really just makes me realize that for events such as these and for future events, it really does take a sangha to run a temple. And that's another important thing to remember. Causes and conditions. What makes a temple successful? What makes a temple continue to exist? What makes a temple continue to function the way that it does? It's the sangha. The love that a sangha has for its temple is the most valuable thing, I think, that can make a temple successful and run. And it's not, and of course, it's easy for people to look at the minister and go, oh, well, the minister is the main person. But this couldn't be further from the truth. In truth, I am here because of you. Causes and conditions. Why are you all here right now? Multitudes of causes and conditions. Somehow you found the temple. You were either born into the tradition, or now thanks to the internet that exists, you were able to find our website. Multitudes of causes and conditions brought us here today. So for Dharma School students, I want you to think heavily about this concept of causes and conditions. Why are things the way that they are? Why, how did we become so lucky to be in the position that we're in? Causes and conditions. This isn't to diminish the hard work that you do alone or that you do yourself. But I never want us to get into the trap of thinking that, oh, I did this all by myself, right? Let's not get into that trap of saying, I did it by myself. I pulled myself up by myself. No. This temple is here, I am here, and we are all here because of innumerable causes and conditions and the hard workings of others as well. So with this in mind, when you all go home today or you all go out to eat lunch and when you eat dinner, put your hands together and say itadakimasu. And remember the meaning of itadakimasu, the Buddhist concept of gratefully receiving for the innumerable causes and conditions that brought that meal to you today, whether it's the animals that gave their lives, the plants that gave their lives, the cooks that gave their time and effort, the parents who gave you money to buy that meal or who provided that meal. Think about all of the causes and conditions that helped bring that meal to you today. So once again, I would like to thank everyone for attending the Dharma School portion of our service. Thank you once again to the many members of Tacoma Buddhist Temple for your hard work and dedication in creating such a wonderful, tasty event that I was very happy to attend. Please join me in Gassho. And repeat the Nembutsu with me. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandats. Namandats. Will you all please join me in Gassho again as I read the words of our founder, Master Shinran Shonin. It is true mind that is diamond-like and indestructible. It is pure Shinjin by which a person easily reaches the Pure Land where no one goes. It is the mind that is single, realized by the person who is grasped and protected by the compassionate light. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandats, namandats. Good morning again, everyone. Once again, I can't speak highly enough and really just think back on the wonderful taste of the sukiyaki that we were all able to enjoy last weekend. Today, for the adult Dharma talk, I'd like to talk a little bit about the life of a minister to a degree. For many of you, you only see me sometimes on Sundays, right? You only see me on the Sunday service. And I actually talk about this as a talk of being so grateful that I had this life, being so grateful that I am here with all of you. This talk, is a reminder to myself as well as to why I do what I do, why all ministers before me and ministers beyond me do what they do. The first aspect is love for the teaching. Of course, we would not be here if this teaching did not speak to us, and we would not be here to share with all of you. And that is the teaching of the Nembutsu path, the teaching of saying Namo Amida Butsu. And when we think about it, the teaching is also very much like receiving the wisdom and compassion from the Buddha of infinite light and infinite life, but receiving the teachings as well from Shakyamuni Buddha. Just like in my previous talk, when I talked about placing our hands together, saying itadakimasu, when we place our hands together and say Namo Amida Butsu, we are gratefully receiving the teachings from Shakyamuni Buddha, the wisdom and compassion from Amida Buddha, and receiving all of the wonderful teachings from the previous masters. When living the life of a minister, we often wonder, what do they do outside of Sunday service? Lots of times we conduct other services as well. We conduct memorial services for long past loved ones. This could be the 13th year, I've even done a 30th year before. And this is to remind ourselves of the Buddhist teachings of impermanence, but also of interdependence, that we are all here because of somebody else. And it's a wonderful reminder to have families come together and to support one another in times of sadness. As a minister, I am privileged to be able to participate in many wonderful activities here at the temple. Of course, a happy one being wonderful fundraising events like Sukiyaki, or being able to dance during the Obon festival, being able to be a part of a wonderful, joyous community. It's a wonderful aspect of being a minister. But there are times of sadness as well. This past Friday, I actually had to go all the way up to Bellingham to help do a funeral service there and perform ritual rites for the person who had recently departed. But in that time as well, it is not just me giving them the teachings or doing rituals for them. It is also to be a student and to sit and listen and learn about the ones who have departed. For the person who departed this past Friday, or the service that I just did, this person was a mother, a sister, a friend, a grandmother, and a teacher, and a rights activist, a civil rights activist. She was many things to many people. And it's wonderful to hear about a person who I have never met before had such an impact on the community. But it is also a wonderful time for me to remind myself as well that because this person departed, they left upon their loved ones a very important lesson of impermanence and interdependence. There are times of great sadness as well where I have to be called sometimes late at night or maybe even in the early hours of the morning to perform the last rites, or what would be considered to be last rites. In Japanese, we call it a pillow service or a makurakyo to a person who has just passed away. And it's a glimpse of being there when the person's loved ones have gathered around to be there at the final moments. And I can't help but think about the time that Prince Siddhartha, the historical Buddha, stepped out of the palace gates that third time and saw the funeral procession and was deeply affected by that image of a person's departed body and the mourners who gathered around and lamented. This is an important reminder for me that this is part of our life's journey, isn't it? Our life's journey is filled with many ups and downs and ebbs and flows. This life journey that we are on consists of many happy moments and many sad moments. And it is important for me as well to deeply reflect on where my life is. All the happy moments, all the sad moments. On an average day, Reverend Cindy and I have to talk about our full schedules, the events that we have to go to, the services that we have to perform. And it's usually it's usually a balancing act. Okay, do we have time for this errand? Do we go for this? Or we have to prepare for this service. And in all of the scheduling and the stressing about work schedules, sometimes it can be easy for us to lose sight of what we are doing as well. But that is to help bring comfort to those who have lost loved ones, to be a spiritual guide for those who are celebrating a momentous occasion. I am many things to many people. For some people, I am a minister. I wear these robes. I stand up here before you. Last weekend, I really enjoyed being one of the hosts for sukiyaki. I did not wear my robes, I wore regular clothes. And then when I call my parents or when I talk to my brother, I am merely just a family member. It's, my parents, of course, my mom and dad and my brother never call me Reverend Koyama. They always, they just call me by my first name. But in this time of life, as we continue to walk forward, I am reminded of the gifts that I have received, especially as a priest from the Sangha, in terms of your teachings and your guidance for leading the Sangha, but also the wisdom and compassion that I have received from Amida Buddha. And it is these gifts here alone, I believe, that help me continue to move forward, that continue to get me out of bed every day, that helps me to walk the path of the Nembutsu. It is not as easy of a path as we might think sometimes. Sometimes my job can be very demanding. Sometimes I am called to countless upon countless of Zoom meetings. Ever since Zoom came around, getting together for meetings has become way more convenient. But that being said, we are also able to get a lot more done in a lot more timely fashion. In this chaos of dueling date books and scheduling and planning for future events, I have to take a step back and remind myself why it is that I'm doing what I am doing. Just as I think everyone else should take a step back and heavily consider why it is we are doing what we're doing. It is to continue to come to this temple and receive the Dharma from our founders like Master Shinran, from the historical Buddha, and from the Buddha of infinite light and infinite life. And then with this in mind, I can only place my hands together in a state of gratitude and say, Namo Amida Butsu. For walking this path has made me realize just how lucky and just how indebted I am to all of you and to the teachers and the ministers who came before me. Seeing an event like the Sukiyaki, where all of the members put their 110% into the work that they do, and seeing all the teachings and reading all of the scriptures written by our founders, even looking through our service book when chanting Jusei Ge, realizing that there are 3 different languages listed, and all the hard work and dedication it went into putting that together for us. Knowing that we have different players of the service here today, whether it be the music, the technology, the members who attend, the Dharma School students who continue to ensure our future. There are so many aspects that I, as a minister, must remember to be grateful for. This diamond-like mind of Shinjin coming from Amida Buddha is what continues to inspire me to walk this path and to share the teachings with all of you. Sukiyaki, Obon, Fall Bazaar are wonderful reminders and demonstrations of how special the Sangha really is, how much this Sangha really relies upon one another to ensure this temple's future. But we also must take a step back and remember we are doing this because the community loves each other and the teachings. The teachings give us inspiration to live our daily lives. The teachings give us inspiration to realize that we are not alone. The teachings remind us of infinite wisdom and compassion. The teachings also tell us that we will all be once again born into Amida Buddha's Pure Land, where all are welcome indiscriminately. I am forever grateful to be with members at their times of great joy, at their times of great sadness. And it is incumbent upon me, once again, to deeply learn from the members, from the masters, from everyone, just how grateful and how wonderful it is to be here now. I could go on. The list will continue and continue. And as my former childhood priest, Reverend Bob Oshta, said, when we deeply consider how many people have helped us to get here today, where we are, our success, the words thank you are not enough. It is in this regard we place our hands together in deep gratitude and say, Namo Amida Butsu. With this in mind, I would like all of you to please once again join me in Gassho as I read the words of our founder, Master Shinran Shonin. It is true mind that is diamond-like and indestructible. It is the pure Shinjin by which a person easily reaches the Pure Land where no one goes. It is the mind that is single, realized by the person who is grasped and protected by the compassionate light. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Nam Mandavs, Nam Mandavs, Nam Mandavs.